Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Women in STEM series. My name is Teresa Ode, and I'll be your anchor for this casing amazing feats being accomplished by women in STEM and fields, and also to drive more engagement of women in technology-related fields. On this episode of the Women in STEM series, I have an amazing guest with me, and I can't wait. So I have with me Miss Oluwasomi Onemano. She's a 3D printing expert and a technologist. Hello, Miss Oluwasomi. We're so excited to have you here with us.
Hi, I'm excited to be here too. I'm really glad to be here.
Okay. Hey everyone. Thank you. Welcome back to another. So thanks to everyone who has tuned in, and we'll be getting right into the conversation for today. And so first, I would want Ms. Oluwasomi to please briefly introduce yourself so we can get to know you and meet you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Oluwasomi Onemano. I'm a student of University of Ilorin. I'm currently studying electrical engineering, and I'm in my 400 level. I'm also into 3D printing, designs, hardware, software, anything 3D printing.
Wow, interesting. I mean, when I first saw your profile, one of the things that first struck me was the fact that, oh, she's attending Ilorin. I also finished from University of Ilorin, actually. And so I was really excited. And I'm happy that I'm the one having to, do this interview today. Okay, so now you just said, you're interested in 3D printing, which is very interesting. I mean, not many people as undergraduates have an idea of what field they want to, specialize in. And electrical, electronics, and 3D printing, whereas obviously there are similarities, but I mean, most electrical students would want to go into power sector, renewable energy, and some of this kind of things. So it's really interesting to have you, already have this idea of, okay, you want to go into 3D printing. And I mean, it's just so good. And yes, I'll be asking you a lot of questions around this line, and I'm sure everyone who is listening would get to learn a thing or two from your own experience. So the first thing I want to ask is, what piqued your interest in technology and engineering? Because I'm looking at the fact that you're studying electrical electronics. I mean, I think your own set it's even better. When we were in school, the entire faculty I think we're just like 50 girls, the entire faculty. So it was really interesting. The ratio was just something that was just really interesting. So what piqued your interest in engineering and technology?
Okay, thank you for that question. Um, Engineering and technology, it's a very vast field. Well, I started getting interest in that field when I was like 8 years old, due to the devices that were at home. I just really wanted to know what makes them work. From the TV set to the freezer to the iron, everything electronics. I just wanted to know what makes them work and how do they function. Can I repair them if they get spoiled? Those are the questions I kept on asking. That's the electronics at home. And another thing that piqued my interest was the fact that if you check your devices at home, you have made in China, made in Japan, and I never saw made in Nigeria. So I felt there was something these people knew already that we didn't know. That's why we're not making them. So I wanted to get into the engineering field to make a difference, learn what they know, and make things that are Nigerian. So that's how my journey into engineering started, I think, when I was 8.
This is really interesting. I mean, very, very interesting actually.
Yeah.
And I think quite a number of persons who really are passionate about engineering, also had that time when they were like, why is it like we don't have Nigerian made products? You understand, Nigerian electrical products, home appliances, and all of that. Why is it sort of like we are always having to, buy what other people have made? And just as you have shared that you want to make a difference, I think it's just so important. And thank you for sharing that. So now I would be moving a bit away from there to 3D printing. So what made you go into 3D printing? If we'll just start from there.
Okay. 3D printing. I first learned of 3D printing sometimes last year from Collab Innovation Hub in Kaduna. I went into 3D printing because there's a lot of prototyping that you do when you're into robotics and all that stuff. So I wanted to be able to do my work easily. So that's the mindset I came into the 3D printing world with. But on getting here, I found out that it is much
Miss Oluwasomi, can you hear me? Okay, I think she's having a bit of network
Yes, I can
issue.
hear you.
Okay. I lost you at some point.
As I was saying, when I got into the 3D printing world, I found out that it was much more than prototyping. It had evolved from prototyping to a whole new sector that is being used in every industry. So I'll be sharing some things from this talk about what 3D printing is exactly.
Okay. This is really interesting. So actually, I think this is a good point to have you start to talk about it, because I think it's really interesting that just between last year and this year, you just sort of start to venture into this aspect, and you've done a lot of amazing things in such a short while. I mean, it's just really good. So definitely, I know some persons are also wondering what is 3D printing, what's it all about, and so you can just go ahead and just share around it. Yes.
Okay. Um, so I'll be talking about the future of 3D printing and 3D printing in general. What is 3D printing? 3D printing is the process of making a three-dimensional solid object of virtually any shape from a digital model. 3D printing is achieved using an additive process with successive layers. I'll stop here for now. So 3D printing, it's like you said, it's printing. The word printing is used most of the time, but it can also be called additive manufacturing. And additive manufacturing is the process of making an object, a solid object, from an STL file, a CAD file. When I mean a CAD file, a computer-aided design file. You can use Fusion 360 for the design, or other softwares that enable files. Then after you've gotten your CAD file, you would now put it into your 3D printing machine object. Now we call it additive manufacturing because it doesn't use the normal subtractive method that we have known. Like if you want to make an object out of a metal milling machine or your CNC machine and cut out the pieces that you do not need to get your object. But this time around, we use a printing form in the sense that we put the layers of the object according to how they are supposed to be, reducing the waste materials after production.
Okay.
Then I'll also talk about the processes.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll also talk about the process of 3D printing. Now, I've talked about the computer-aided design, the CAD file. Then we also have the STL file where you convert your design to STL. Then after STL, you slice and you prime for printing. Now, slicing is you convert your STL file to G code. G code is the program language that the printer understands. So you convert your STL file to G code. Then you can either use you can either connect your computer directly to your 3D printer, or you can use an SD card to put in your file. Then you print, and you can apply it in any field you want to apply.
Okay. So one of the interesting things about 3D printing that I was also hoping you field and every field, because when you started, you talked about the fact that one of the reasons why you wanted to go into 3D printing was because of prototyping, because you felt it was going to us in Nigeria.
There are a lot of types of 3D printing. Now, 3D printing, you can use different materials for 3D printing, from plastics to polymers to wood to even metal. Now, producing and manufacturing, it's going another direction with 3D printing, because you can have a 3D printer in your house and produce as many products as you want. In application, in education, a 3D printer in a school would do a whole lot, because the students will be able to see models that will help them understand the particular subject more than they do currently. They can see things, maybe you want to model an engine for them to see, and you have printed out an engine and the parts. They'll be able to relate more with such topics in school, in the educational sector. In medicine, they are printing out prosthetics for those who have lost a limb or an arm, so they can be able to function well as every other human being. They're also trying out, they're also working on this currently. They're working on how to print organs for those that have lost an organ, or the organ is not functioning properly, because the wait list for donors is so long. So they are working on that technology currently. And you can also apply it in fashion. Fashion is always evolving. One Today it's this, tomorrow it's that. So in fashion, they're already applying it to jewelries, hats and all, shoes, the soles of shoes. Let's say in our everyday life, there's always something that can be 3D printed. A small cube, the Lego blocks that kids play with in the house can be 3D printed. In construction, they're printing out houses now. I'll play a video at the end of this talk too, so we see how far 3D printing has gone.
Okay, you know what? I would allow you share your slides and just run us through your slides before I come back and just ask a bit more questions, so I don't break your flow. So you can just go ahead, share your slide, and just share with us, run through your slide, and then I'll just ask a bit of questions and we can wrap it up. Yes, so please go ahead.
Sorry, please, can you come again? I didn't.
Okay, I said I would allow you share your slides and run through it, so I don't break your flow. So since you have a slide, so let's just run through your slide, and then I'll come back, ask a bit of questions, and we can wrap up the episode. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, so I already started by defining what 3D printing is all about, and I think I've done justice to that. And we talked about stages. We have the CAD design, from the CAD design stage to the printing stage, then your final product. Then we also have different types of 3D printing. We have stereolithography, we have diffuse deposition modeling. Diffuse deposition modeling is the most common type, the one that you have your regular small size printers at home. Then we have the selective laser sintering. There are a whole lot of types, a whole lot of 3D printing types, but I'll focus more on the first three that I have here because it's 3D printing is material dependent. So it depends on the type of material you want to print. The type of material you want to print helps you to know what kind of 3D printing style you would use. For fused deposition modeling, you can use PLA or ABS. All those are polymers, they're plastics. You can easily use them to print out whatever you want. You can use those to print out cases of your Arduino board or Raspberry Pi. If you're into electronics, you can use them to print out fidget spinners, to print out phone stands. They are strong enough to hold phones. So then for SLS, we can use metals. You can use gold, gold powder. You can use silver powder. They are using titanium powder already for SLS to build parts of vehicles, to build parts of machines. They're also using ceramics, using SLE. They're using ceramics to build parts of rocket ships. So in every sector, they're using 3D printing for one thing or the other. Then that's types of 3D printing. I talked about the materials that can be used in 3D printing: PLA, ABS, metal powder, gold powder, silver powder, any type of metal. Then we have softwood, we have ceramics, we have glass filled polyimide, and we have wax. So all these can be used for 3D printing. Now this is how some of them look like. Where if you're using fused deposition modeling, you fit in your filaments. So these are like PLA, they are ceramics and all looking like this. You fit in this filament into your printer to enable it to print properly. And I was talking about the applications of 3D printing. I talked about in medicine. We have the prosthetics for patients who have lost their limbs. They're also working on printing of organs. They're in the dentistry. Dentists are also using them for tooths and other aspects too. For those who use glasses, your glass frames can also be 3D printed and stuff like that. In the fashion industry, the shoes, your jewelries, accessories, they've tried printing undergarments, but the issue now is that it's a little bit heavy, but we're still working on it. There's still work in progress on the printing of clothes. There's this movie that we saw last year, Black Panther. The crown of the queen in Black Panther was 3D printed. So they're already using it worldwide. In construction, we're having different construction companies working on their 3D printers to print up houses. They're printing houses for those who have lost their homes due to natural disasters like hurricanes and all. So they print for them. Those whose homes, who have like the people that are refugees, like internally displaced people, they print out homes for them so that they can stay and live comfortably. And the good thing about it is it is cost effective, it doesn't waste much time, and it uses less labor. You can print out a house in 24 hours. I've seen a house that has been printed in 24 hours. So it's a wide range of application in the 3D printing world. In electronics, you can print your cases. They're printing electronic components now using the 3D printer. We can also have them in education. I talked about having them for building models in classrooms. In so many sectors, So I'll just play a video now to show us how 3D printing can be used in the nearest future. Can
We can't hear the audio. I don't know if you could help us fix that.
Okay, thank you. That's
If manufacturing showcased its practical versatility.
I think you might have to disconnect your earpiece if you're using your earpiece with the device you're playing it from. The sound is not clear. The sound is still not up. We still can't hear.
yes, I can. We can go on now.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay, we can go on now. I think the video was not loud enough.
Oh. But there was a point where we could hear actually, I think for like about maybe 15 seconds, but then we couldn't hear again. Okay, so are you done with your slides?
Yes, I am. I am.
Okay. Thank you so much for that presentation. I mean, I am certain that everyone who has followed us through since we started would have a better idea of what 3D printing is and how important it is. Because just from some of the things you showed us, it's an aspect that would always be relevant to every field. So it's not even so. I mean, there are so many opportunities, which just brings me to my next question. For someone who is, watching now and who has seen everything you said, who has heard everything you said so far, what are some of the career opportunities in 3D printing?
You said what are the career opportunities in 3D printing? There are a lot of career opportunities in 3D printing. Some people might specialize in the CAD designs. Even if they don't have a 3D printer, you can just specialize in designing cars and all. Many manufacturing industries are looking for ways to produce more 3D printers that can be used in homes and offices. So there will be more industries that would open up to produce 3D printers, simple 3D printers. In electronics, the world of robotics is just starting when it comes to 3D printing because there's a whole lot that can be done. You can print a whole robot. The only thing that you need to put externally are your boards and your microcontrollers. That's all. So it's a vast sector. It's a vast sector. The manufacturing line is long. So from the STLs, the designers, the producers, even the marketers and all, there's a whole lot of opportunities in 3D printing.
Okay, thank you. So before we ask questions from our audience, I want to ask for someone who wants to start up a career in 3D printing. Where do they start from? How do they proceed after seeing all you've said so far?
Okay, after seeing all I've said so far, the first thing is not to kill yourself to get a 3D printer because they are a little bit expensive now. But the first thing is to start by researching. I've done a little bit of research, but you can go deeper. Then also learn CAD designs. There are different softwares that enable you to
I still hear me.
design. There are different softwares that enable you to design for 3D printing. We have Fusion
Can you please come
360,
again?
which is the
lost
one I
you.
use.
Okay. I lost you after asking the question. So please, can you just sort of recap so we can be on the same page?
Okay, you asked how to get into the 3D printing field. And I'm responding that it's not, the first thing is not to kill yourself to get a 3D printer because they're a little bit expensive now. But you can start by doing more research first. This is just the basic, this is just the beginning. You can do more research. You can also start by learning designs, CAD designs. You can use Fusion 360, there's SolidWorks, Blender, a lot of software that enable you to design for 3D printing. Yeah, so you can learn that and be very proficient in designing. There are a lot of people that are just designers, they don't print, they put their work out there and they get paid for just designing in the 3D printing world. So you can start by designing, then you can build up yourself. Then there are facilities that have 3D printers. Collab has a 3D printer here. So we have 3D printers. You can get a facility that has a 3D printer and you can go there to use the 3D printer with permission and all, even though you'll be paying to use it. And
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for that walkthrough. So are there any materials you can recommend, resources that could help someone who wants to also, start to learn around this area?
YouTube is a very, very good resource. There are some online courses on 3D printing, not so much. And there are some channels on YouTube, like the Autodesk channel, Fusion 360. You can get a whole lot of tutorial videos on how to start in designing. there is the product design online, a lot of YouTube channels that they are just focused on designing. Then there is the 3D printing nerd who is into the hardware aspect of 3D printing. He tells you how to troubleshoot your printer when you have issues and stuff like that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I am certain that anyone who has followed through this conversation and is interested in pursuing 3D printing will definitely find many of the things you said useful. And I believe our audience are taking notes. I mean, she has given us a lot of should I say, things that can help us, fast track our learning. So instead of you just going to, just randomly search on the internet, you can check out some of the YouTube videos she has mentioned and, just use that as a starting point. So let me know, do we have any questions from our audience? If you have any question, please just type in your question so we can just ask our guest before we wrap up. So whilst we collect the question, I think we can just take a quick commercial, and then I hope that by the end of the commercial, the questions would have come in and we can just answer the questions and wrap up the section. Thank you so much, Ms. Oluwasomi. I've learned a whole lot, and I believe our audience have also learned a lot. Okay, so please send in your questions and we'll just take a quick commercial.